Welcome to On the Beat, where we bring you a different Buffalo Bills beat reporter every week, exclusively on the Overreaction Sports Network.
Evening, Bills fans, Bills Mafia, all Bills fans everywhere globally, and of course in Western New York. I'm John Fina, sitting in on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by FanDuel. And tonight, our guest on the Beat is Alex Brasky. Alex is going to bring us some of his insights into the Buffalo Bills. And on this show, this is what we do. We bring the best beat reporters to you for their insights, their in-depth look, their analysis, their discovery into just how this Buffalo Bills team is doing, where they're going, where they've been, what kind of adjustments we need to make. So thanks again for joining us tonight. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing great, John. I appreciate you guys for having me. Very high praise, referencing me as one of the best beat reporters. There's a lot of great men and women on the beat, on site on the beat. I've enjoyed being a little bit more behind the scenes, whether I've liked it or not this season. So new experience for me. I've certainly been hitting the ground running with Bills on SI, still doing my thing for Shout Magazine as well. So it's been exciting watching the Bills roller coaster season. Some weeks more exciting than others for Bills fans, I'm sure, but the drama has certainly been there this season. There's been no shortage of that, which makes for a productive season for someone in my position.
Oh, for sure. Hey, I've never heard of this Bills on SI. I'm sure there's a Dolphins and Rams on SI, but tell our listeners how they can find you and find Bills on SI.
Yeah, you could really just search Alex Brasky, Bills on SI. It used to be, I believe, a part of the Fansided network, but in recent years, it's since moved over to the Sports Illustrated umbrella, and we just focus on everything Bills, really bringing up-to-date news, up to the minute sometimes during the day. We really focus our coverage on really the breaking stuff surrounding the Bills. What do you need to know on a day-to-day practice basis? And then some reflection pieces as well, which makes it interesting for the reader. So a lot of good stuff. Buffalo Bills on SI. If you go to the Sports Illustrated page and search Buffalo Bills, you can find all that good stuff, or just follow my Twitter account or X account nowadays at Alex Brasky. I post my articles every once in a while, and also Bills NSI has its own X account as well. So plenty of opportunity to find my work out there, but the easiest way is just by searching Alex Brasky, Bills on SI.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks, Alex. And again, thank you for joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about the last game, where we're going offensively, defensively, the injury report. Before we get to that, thanks again to FanDuel. And if you look forward to the Bills' next game, the Bills are a 5.5 point edge going into the Bengals. Alex, going backwards, just talking real quick about this game at the Steelers and the identity that the Bills put out on offense. You know, give me your take on, does that advance where they can go from here? Or I know they did it to protect the tackles, but do you feel like that's a step back in development with respect to the passing game?
I just think they're doing what they have to do at this point. I don't know if the passing game can take a step back where it's been this season. It's been so poor and inconsistent, and they've been searching for answers really since week one. I believe it was just a couple weeks ago that Sean McDermott said that they were still looking for their best wide receiver combinations, and you've seen that really play out on the field with Keon Coleman being benched due to discipline, then just being a healthy scratch simply based on those combinations. Then they get rid of Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, now on injured reserve. So there's been a lot of shifting in that wide receiver room, and I don't think that plays into the hands of your franchise quarterback. There's been really no normalcy within that group this season, and I think that's led to some inconsistency from the quarterback. I think it's led to him pressing a little bit. He already has 4 more interceptions than he had a season ago. His turnover rate in the past few weeks has been sky high. So I think there's a lot that goes into this, and I think they're just doing what's necessary at this point with the running game. James Cook has been one of your most productive pieces on offense, really only two consistent pieces on the offensive side of the ball with Josh Allen and James Cook. And if you look at what Cook has done this season, he's been building on what was a successful 2024 campaign. And I think it's the strength of the offensive line as well. They've shown some chinks in the armor when it comes to their pass protection, precisely against the Houston Texans. They really like to go with that 5-man protection. They don't like to use, and I think you know better than I do, but they really don't like to chip a lot on the outside. They like to just kind of go man on man and bully on bully, and they got bullied against the Houston Texans. So I think against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they did what they had to do. They handed the ball to James Cook. It was working, I believe, 32 carries, close to, if not a career high, another 100-plus yard game. And the Bills ran for, I believe, the most yardage against the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road since 1975, O.J. Simpson. So
I was
it's
only
been
6 years old, Alex. You probably weren't even born yet.
No, I don't even think I was I know I wasn't even a thought at that point. So it's been one of the strengths of the team this season. So I think they're doing what they have to do. And if you ask me if it's a step back for the passing game, I don't think it can go back any further. I think the only place to go for this passing game is up at this point. It's been so dreadful throughout the course of the season. So we'll see what happens moving forward.
And we keep signing guys too, right? So Brandon
Right.
Cooks, Mecole Hardman.
Everybody wanted Adam Thielen before he was picked up by the Steelers today. So yeah, it's been a musical chairs in that wide receiver room, and it's just led to putrid passing offense for the Bills.
Yeah, and just sticking with that, insofar as injury related, I mean, now Terrell Bernard with the elbow, we had Ed Oliver with the bicep. I mean, the list goes on and on. Hairston coming back, but playing sparingly, and it just continues to be this revolving door around our defense, which has already suffered a little bit. You know, did you like what you saw, and do you think that that's a real representation, or were the Steelers just that bad up front and that bad in their running game?
The Steelers are that bad offensively. Their wide receiver core might be worse than the Bills. You saw what Christian Benford was able to do with their only productive receiver, DK Metcalf, pitched a shutout on the outside while shadowing him. And I think that's been the difference for the Bills as the season has progressed. The pass rush has kind of faded, but that pass defense in the back end has really kind of transformed itself on the go this season. You got to give Sean McDermott and even Bobby Babich a lot of credit. But when it comes to on the field, Tre'Davious White has upped his game. Cole Bishop has been widely discussed with his progression this season and what he's done for the team, a team leading 3 interceptions, a team high amount of tackles. And then, like I said, you look at Benford. He struggled, I think, at the beginning of the season. But as the season has gone on, he's reinserted himself as that true number 1 cornerback on the outside. So I think that's what the Bills are really relying on right now. And it could be a little bit of fool's gold this past week going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, as you mentioned and I alluded to, one of the worst downfield passing teams in the league. They haven't attempted a downfield pass in a number of weeks here. And us here in Buffalo, we all talk about the Bills downfield passing game. The Steelers are just that much worse. So there is something to be said for that. That was a bad team, a bad offense that the Bills were going up against. But even if you look over the past number of weeks, their passing defense metrics have really taken a step forward. And I think there's a lot of positives to look forward to in that regard, because during the postseasons these past few years, I think that's where they've really let down is in the back end, just letting Patrick Mahomes work you up and down the field. Joe Burrow a few seasons ago. So I think the passing defense is really starting to come along, and it is a bit worrisome with the pass rush slowing down, and now Joey Bosa may be missing a week with the hamstring injury. But what you've seen on the back end with Tre'Davious White kind of settling into that role as a starting cornerback, and then Christian Benford upping his game, and what you've had from Cole Bishop, I think there's a lot of positives there, and that's something that they might be able to lean on moving forward.
Well, and in addition to that, Shaq Thompson as a
Yeah,
a great
sure.
signing, really helping with that 4-3 front that we have. We hadn't seen it forever.
Yeah.
We fiddled with it a little bit last year, maybe not to a great success, or maybe just didn't have the right personnel grouping or not enough time to install and practice it. But Shaq Thompson in the 4-3, I think with him in the middle, we just look like a completely different type of defense. Just so much more aggressive. And as you were mentioning, our pass rush success isn't fantastic, but I think as confidence grows, if you can get the quarterback off the spot, move in a little bit more, that generally leads to more success. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think early in the season, the Bills were really getting those quick pressures. And if you look at that play that Bosa made on Rodgers, I think that may be an example of what you're talking about. I think they may have taken away his first read, which he's been making a living on throughout the course of the season. That allowed Bosa to break free, get to him on the backside, and knock that ball out. And Benford returned it for the touchdown, and the Bills take the lead on that. So a huge momentum swing. So, yeah, maybe the pass rush maybe experiencing a shift here, going from those as Joe popping in to take a look here
I don't know if
briefly.
that was intentional or not. I think he
Yeah, I know.
accidentally hit the link.
The ghost of Joe Miller
Ghost of
is
Joe Miller popping in. I thought he wanted to come say hello. Um,
uh, but
yeah,
yeah, I think maybe as the back end of the defense improves, maybe the front end of the defense with all the injuries you mentioned, Ed Oliver and now Joey Bosa going out, Greg Rousseau and up and down season in terms of the pass rush, maybe they are bolstered a little bit with the coverage on the back end. And Sean McDermott always talks about the rush and coverage working together. I think it was the rush leading the way early in the year. Maybe it's the back end starting to lead the way as the season goes.
well, I'm going to throw something out there, and thanks everybody in the comments. And if you want to comment on what I'm about to say, I know Alex is going to have an opinion. It's really Greg Rousseau makes it very hard to critique or criticize him because his run game defense is just
True.
incredible, right? I mean, he is so stout against the run. But then I went back and looked at Bosa's strip sack. And the level of effort, the Bosa, Hoyt level of effort that we had for just a sneak peek for 6 or 7 quarters, I, virtually the easiest block you can ever give a tackle is what Greg Rousseau offers in so many instances in the passing game. And then Sean McDermott made a comment this week a little bit about, where's Greg's, pass rush and what's going on. And Greg started to talk about it McDermott started to talk about it a little bit like kind of like poetic mumbo jumbo about, sometimes it rises and fades and, he's in a plateau type. And I'm like, I'm not an English 101 here. I mean, what's your take on that?
You're paying Greg Rousseau $20 million a year, right? Do you pay an edge rusher $20 million a year to defend against the run? No, not in typical circumstances. And I think that's what has everybody, including myself, up in arms often when it comes to Greg Rousseau. And you mentioned, I don't know if I'd use the word effort, because you hear his teammates and his coaches always talk about how high effort he is and what he brings to the table. And you see that in the running game. But I think you're spot on when it comes to his pass rush ability. He's just simply a non-factor more often than not. And I think when you're paying a guy $20 million a year, you sign him to a lengthy contract extension, I believe 4 years, tying him to the team through 2029, with a lot of these guys that they signed during the offseason. I think it really comes down to, are you getting what you're paying for? And in Greg Rousseau's circumstance, I just don't think you are. The sack numbers aren't there. And I know year after year we talk about his pressure rate, but at some point you have to get the quarterback on the ground. And Greg Rousseau just doesn't do that often enough for Bills fans to come away satisfied. And it's all well and good what he does in the running game, but the Bills' run defense stinks. So really, what level of impact is he making when this run defense year after year is piss poor? I think it's second worst in the league at this point. So we can blow smoke up everybody's ass all we want about Greg Rousseau's run defense. the unit as a whole is
As a whole,
terrible.
okay, fair enough, fair enough. But I could tell you, for the edge plays, he's fantastic. I don't think he can always control what happens, from the
Yeah,
A gap over,
true,
sometimes even the inside B gap over to
true.
the other side of the line of scrimmage. And then there was another thing that, you know, I guess we see it a little bit here and there in the league, but when I was with the Bills and when I played our opponents, generally the defensive end that I had was the same guy the entire game. And we do a lot of swap, right? So Bosa will be on either side, Rousseau's on either side. And to me, I just keep thinking that's a little bit strange. That's almost, I don't know. I mean, poor analogy here, maybe like, hey, Alex, let's go to the driving range, use this driver, and you get, real comfortable with it. And then I give you a different one with a different lie and a different length shaft and a different type of shaft. I just think, your body kind of works in these familiar type ways, and you can fine tune and add more things to it. And flip flopping in my brain, just, it doesn't add up.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that, right? And you would know this better than I, but when you're going up against a player all game long, you pick up on tendencies, you pick up on their technique. And I think when it comes to on the edge going up against these offensive tackles, they're always looking to gain that edge by using different sorts. We all hear about Deion Dawkins' snatch trap, and then you look at Spencer Brown on the other edge for the Bills. I think those are, and correct me if I'm wrong, two different style of players. And if you're going up against one or the other throughout the course of the game consistently, I think you have a better chance of picking up on those tendencies, on those different parts of technique to help you to gain that edge on a player that you're lining up against. So I think that's what I would look to in that circumstance is what are you picking up on a snap to snap basis if you're going from side to side and facing a different player on a play to play basis. I think there's something to be said for that consistency lining up against the same player, play after play. And I think you hit the nail on the head. When you pick up on those things, I think you have a better chance of beating the man lined up against you and rushing the passer throughout the course of the game.
Uh, don't disagree with you. It's at Alex Brasky on X, Bills on SI. You can Google that and find all of Alex's great content. Bills on SI also has its own Twitter handle. Newsweek Newsweek Sports. You can find Alex there, starting up a new gig, covering more than just the Bills there. Shout Magazine, of course. And listen, I brought up Michael Hoyt for a second. And I just love that hunger. I love Bosa's hunger. And we're a food network here. We're sponsored by the Anchor Bar. So I'm going to dive right in, Alex. And I know that you probably have a chance to go to the original Anchor Bar every now and again when you're in Buffalo, New York. But for people like me, thank God I have an Anchor Bar in Tucson, Arizona. There's 17 franchise locations now. And if you want a taste of the authentic of pizza and burgers and salads and wraps and appetizers. The Anchor Bar was founded by Frank and Teresa Bellissimo in 1935. And in 1964, they became famous globally for the chicken wing. Currently, they serve over 15 million pounds of chicken wings annually, about the same as Jerry and I have eaten in our lifetime. And you can get that bottled wing sauce in 4,000 supermarkets worldwide. If you don't have an Anchor Bar near you, that authentic chicken wing experience, you can also order Anchor Bar wings sent to you, reheat them at home. Enjoy. Thank you, Anchor Bar, for sponsoring On the Beat and the Overreaction Sports Network. Alex, looking forward, okay, we can all agree that the Steelers are a team that's kind of a mess. We had 17 years of a mess. Next week, a little bit different story, although Joe Burrow's out. The Bengals have experienced a little bit more success, might have a few more threats than we have experienced against the Steelers. What's your take on what we have to do defensively coming up against the Bengals?
You got to get after Joe Burrow, right? I mean, he comes back. I believe it was that turf toe injury that kept him out ever since he sustained it in week 1. And he immediately comes back, throws for over 250 yards. He hits up Jamar Chase. He goes for over 100 yards. So this Bengals offense really picked up right where it left off when Burrow was in the lineup when he was healthy. So you got to find a way to slow down Joe Burrow, and that's proven difficult for the Bills over the years. But and it might prove even more difficult if you're without Joey Bosa. I know they signed Andre Smith, I believe is his name. He's been back and forth on the practice squad this year. My apologies if I got the last name wrong, but that kind of points to maybe Bosa being out for a week, maybe even more with those hamstring injuries, and I'm sure that over the course of your long prolific football career that you experienced a hamstring tweak or two, and I know that athletic.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Alex. I appreciate the somewhat of a compliment that I think real athletes pull hamstrings, and big hulking Clydesdales, then we might get a toe bruise or a heel bruise, but
Okay.
I don't think anything reverberates that high up the leg to
Right.
affect the hamstring of an offensive lineman. It's a luxury or injury of the super talented. We suffered other types of bumps and bruises and things of that nature. It is Joey's a little older. He has been immensely productive for this team. I think if we can be stout up front, push them to throw earlier and cause some mistakes, like you said, by getting Burrow off his spot, first shutting the running game down, then move Burrow off the spot, I think we have a pretty darn good chance. Offensively, we just keep, you were mentioning a guy that we signed off the practice squad, and I started to think to myself, I can hardly remember that name. It's been like a carousel due to injuries and, signings and injuries and signings and practice squad. And this guy's elevated, this guy's down again. How do you even keep up? Do you have like a spreadsheet? I can't even recall it week to week.
It is very difficult. Sal Capaccio does a good job with the spreadsheet on his X account, so that's a great resource for me. But really, it's just following that Buffalo Bills PR Twitter account and keeping the notifications on, and following the NFL's transaction wire as well. But you're right; it's been tough to follow this year with all the injuries. I believe at one point they had 12 guys on injured reserve, and a lot of those have been what were expected to be key contributors, namely on that defensive line. Ed Oliver and Dwayne Carter. Both were expected to be key cogs. They've been out throughout the course of the season. So it has been a carousel. That's a good way to term it. And it's got to be difficult not only for the players knowing who they're lining up next to, but also the coaching staff knowing what they're going to have on a week-to-week basis. And I know we've placed these coaches under fire, and rightfully so. There's been so many times where the defense hasn't offered a productive effort, or the offense hasn't lived up to its end of the bargain. But at the same time, with all the injuries that have caused these players to go in and out of the lineup, it's just so difficult for these guys to come up with a game plan for week to week. So there's been a lot of quote unquote excuses that you could give the Bills this year, but the injuries are really at the top of the list, and it has created a musical chair scenario on that practice squad. And they've kind of had to go week to week with it, right? They've had guys that have missed 1 week, 2 weeks at a time, 3 weeks at a time, and not all of them have been placed on IR that have missed 4 weeks plus. So it's been just out of necessity, bringing guys in, playing that numbers game, and making sure that you have enough fresh bodies available during the practice week to go on the practice squad and the practice team to give your offense a good look and to install a game plan. So it's been difficult for them, and they fired the head strength and conditioning coach this past offseason. They might have to look at doing that once again this year, because it just has not clicked, whatever he's had to offer this year. It's really been a struggle.
Well, I think about that a little bit, and I'm not sure that the role of injuries really falls into strength and conditioning. I mean, it's really hard to pinpoint that.
It is a tough critique. It's just when it happens consistently year over year, and Sean McDermott mentioned it, you have to look at something. And I guess from the outside looking in, it's just kind of you got to point to something, as I said.
Yeah, and who knows where it all falls and shakes down in the end. But you brought up something that, until the game against Houston, really the most consistent group was the offensive line, and they were more or less playing better than any other group on defense or the defense as a whole. And that, of course, would include James Cook. And in challenges with the passing game. So that continuity really matters, right? We have a rotation of wide receivers, passing game. Josh can't get on the same, page as various guys because they keep rotating in and out. You have the Keon Coleman playing, misbehaving type of situation. That doesn't help at all. And then on defense, you have this similar problem. And when it comes to the practice week, like you said, the coaches are like, okay, like you walk, the first trip is to the training room to say, who do I get today? Like, who are my guys? And you got to figure that out and then build a practice schedule based on that and based on their shortcomings, the amount of reps that they can get to. So my question is, can two things happen? Some of these injuries are just extended. Like we're losing guys for the rest of the regular season. Maybe a couple guys make it back. Can we get healthy enough? And can we get some sort of continuity or philosophy in the passing game that meshes with this 12-13 heavy package personnel to make a deep run, to win the first playoff game, go on the road and keep winning?
Listen, with the way that the AFC is right now, I think anything can happen. I don't think there's if you look at the NFC, but first we'll keep it to the AFC. There's no
Perfect.
great team, right? And you can throw the Bills into that mix. You looked at them after the first 4 weeks of the season; they were ripping through their schedule. Looked like they were on their way to the number one seed. And at times, there's been other teams that have taken that role in the AFC as well. You look at the Indianapolis Colts, who were on a great run to start the season, but they've since fallen out of favor in the conference as well. So I think you first have to start there, and you have to look at the way that things are shaking out. And there is no great team. There is really no quarterback playing unreal football in the AFC right now. So if you can find a way, like you're alluding to, anything can happen. But the question is, can the Bills find a way, as you're asking? And you look at some of these injuries, and I think the key one is Dalton Kincaid, right? And that hamstring injury. That's tricky, especially for a tight end that relies on athleticism, leaping ability, and route running, all these different things. So I think if you're able to get him back into the mix, that can maybe set some sort of groundwork for this passing game moving forward. And then you never know what you're going to get out of Brandon Cooks. You like what you saw early in that game against Pittsburgh, that comeback route that he ran to convert that third down. We didn't hear from him the rest of the game. I think he really played less than 15 snaps in that game, so not much from Cooks against the Steelers. But I think if you're able to insert him into things and get Kincaid back, maybe you can start to find some sort of rhythm in the passing game. Keon Coleman comes back, catches the touchdown. That was really it for him. I think he finished the game with 2 receptions. Khalil Shakir has even been up and down this season, what you've had from him in the passing game. And I think it goes to utilization on Joe Brady's part in that respect. I think Khalil Shakir could be more than just a screen and yards after the catch receiver, but he's not been given those opportunities in the middle portion of the field in the intermediate route. So I think there's a lot that needs to go right for the Bills in the wide receiver room and in the passing game overall in order for them to take that step forward. But I think it all starts with Dalton Kincaid. You have to get him back. You have to get him healthy. You have to get him back to what he was providing this passing game when he was at his best this season before he went out with that hamstring injury. And it's really led to some struggles from the Bills over the past few weeks. But another thing, you just have to keep relying on that running game. It might be tough to do that during the postseason when quarterbacks really win these games in crunch time. But James Cook and this offensive line has been able to move the ball consistently throughout the season. And I think it really starts with Dalton Kincaid in the passing game, James Cook in the running game. Then, of course, you have Josh Allen, and anything can happen in this wide open AFC moving forward.
Yeah, that's great stuff, Alex. Really appreciate it. I like what you're saying there. Dalton Kincaid, I think, is a linchpin to this, and we just need one guy after that, right? Whether it's Curtis Samuel or Josh Palmer or Brandon Cooks or Keon Coleman. And I purposely put him at fourth, that can help. When you're running the seam route, when you're working the middle of the field with Dalton Kincaid, you want to have somebody pushing that deep safety, or you want to have somebody pulling somebody to the sideline to open up that middle of the field. And right now it's just not there. I don't disagree with you. I think the running game can get us part of the way. And I think if you can control the turnovers and be a little bit better on defense, I think they have a pretty good chance. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you in the comments. If you like this show, share it with a friend. Please hit like and subscribe. Tell your buddies to do so too. Alex Brasky is my guest on the On the Beat show here on the Overreaction Sports Network. Alex, I'm gonna get you out of here in a second. I just want to say thank you again for joining, and thanks to all of our people, who've been faithful listeners to our network as we grow it. So before I get us out, Alex, final comment. Go.
I think this year for me is really the first year where Sean McDermott specifically is kind of on the hot seat, but really Brandon Beane's feet are being held to the fire, and rightfully so. I think the way that he's constructed this roster, a lot of the chickens are coming home to roost for the Bills, right? He took a lot of chances relying on Josh Allen to really carry this team. And although James Cook has stepped up and really provided a solid 1-2 punch for this offense, even when Josh Allen has struggled at times throughout this season, and he's done a nice job with the offensive line as well. Really, you look at the remainder of the roster, and there's so many holes, and we've mentioned how so much needs to go right over the next few weeks. Whereas I think at this time of the build, you shouldn't be waiting with bated breath for things to go right. You should be confident in your team going into the postseason that you're going to do enough to make it to a Super Bowl. And I believe what is the 9th year under this regime. So I just think that the patience is running thin amongst the fan base. And also, really, I think the media is starting to feel it as well. Whereas at first it was this regime helped turn things around and pull this team out of the drought. Now it's kind of we're waiting for that next step, and there's been signs of that next step being taken, but it just hasn't been in terms of making that Super Bowl. And I think if they don't make the Super Bowl, that's the Bills, of course. Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane entering next season may be on the hottest seats of any coach GM combo in the NFL. I don't think that's really a leap to say that. They have to get it done this postseason, and there's really no guarantee that they'll make it to the postseason at this point. They are still sitting in that number 7 seed. I think the percentages are in their favor, but they have to make it to the postseason. They have to still make the Super Bowl, or they're going to be on a really, really hot seat this offseason, and rightfully so, because 8-9 years in, they just aren't where they should be at this point.
Oh, wow. That's pretty hot. That's a pretty hot take. I'm going to disagree with you only in that if the Bills can win out, regardless of what happens in the playoffs, I think Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott are back. Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm not saying that they're going to be fired. I'm just saying the seat is going to be hot.
I don't even think the seat gets warm if they win out and don't, and everybody can look at the injuries and, you can say about the roster, but a lot of that gets really nebulous and ambiguous in people's minds. But I will say, win out, win one playoff game. I don't think the seat even gets warm. Ladies and gentlemen, hot take from Alex Brasky. He says the hot seat is coming if the Bills don't make it to the Super Bowl. I don't know that I agree, but I love his takes. Find Alex Brasky at Alex Brasky on X, Bills on SI, Newsweek Sports, Shout Magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night you've got Jerry Ostrowski and Zig Fracassi on 7 Days of Sunday. You've got Dan Freddy on Mafia Bets. If you like to bet, Dan's a professional gambler. He'll give you his insight. He shares everything that he does. And then Anthony Marino for a quick hit before the game. It's called The Walkthrough with Anthony Marino. For me, for Jerry Ostrowski, for all the other guys, and most importantly, Joe Miller, the leader of our motley crew, thank you so much for joining me on the beat with Alex Brasky. And as usual, I always go, hey, go Bills. And Alex says, good night. I love it.